The red sofa had never felt this cold. Two other guests sat frozen in place. The studio audience had stopped laughing. And Graham Norton, 17 years behind this desk, thousands of celebrities on this couch, was watching something that had never happened in the history of his show. A reaction to something Graham said that was playful, light, the kind of gentle ribbing that happened every Friday night on this sofa. Harry didn't laugh. Harry's expression shifted into something that made Idris Elba, sitting right next to him. Graham noticed. Everyone noticed. So Graham tried to recover. Softer question, easier setup, a chance to reset. Harry's response made the recovery impossible. What happened next would be replayed on every British news program before morning. This is the interview that shocked Britain. Subscribe now, hit that notification bell, and let's see what happened. The Graham Norton Show studio at Television Center had its usual Friday night energy. The famous red sofa arranged for tonight's guests, the band warming up, the audience clutching drinks and buzzing with anticipation. Tonight's lineup had generated unprecedented excitement. Prince Harry alongside Dame Judi Dench promoting her memoir, and Idris Elba discussing his latest film. Harry arrived with security that seemed excessive for a BBC chat show. He walked onto the set, shook hands with Graham, then turned to see Idris already seated on the sofa. A moment passed. Something unspoken. Idris. Harry's voice was careful. Harry. Idris's voice was carefully neutral. They hadn't seen each other in years. The wedding DJ and the groom. Once photographed laughing together, now sitting with studied distance between them. Dame Judi arrived last. Theatrical, warm, immediately commanding the room's attention. She settled into her spot with the ease of someone who'd been charming audiences since before Harry was born. "Right then," Graham said. "This is going to be quite a show." "So, Harry," Graham began with characteristic warmth, "you're back in Britain. How does it feel? Walking around London again, dodging the weather, experiencing the particular joy of British passive aggression?" The audience laughed. Harry's smile was technically present, but emotionally absent. "Britain will always be part of me." "Part of you? That's very diplomatic. Most people just say they missed Pret or complaining about trains. You sound like you're reading from a press statement." Dame Judi chuckled softly. "He does rather, doesn't he?" Harry's expression flickered. "I've learned to be careful with words." "Have you?" Because the book was quite wordy. 400 pages. Some very specific words about your brother's appearance, your family's private conversations. That seems less careful and more comprehensive. Idris shifted in his seat, visibly uncomfortable with the tension already building. "The wedding this weekend," Graham continued. "Peter Phillips, your cousin. Family celebration. You weren't there. We had other commitments." On a Saturday? In June? What commitment outranks a family wedding? "Private matters." Dame Judi leaned forward slightly. "I've found at my age that private matters rarely outweigh family gatherings. Time has a way of clarifying priorities." Harry turned to her. "With respect, Dame Judi, your situation is different from mine." "All situations are different, dear. That's not an explanation. That's an evasion." The audience went quiet. Dame Judi Dench had just called out Prince Harry. Gently, but unmistakably. Graham pressed forward. "The reports suggested you weren't invited, to avoid what they called a PR circus. How does it feel to be characterized as a circus?" "I don't respond to media characterizations." "You've responded to quite a few. Oprah, Netflix, your book. You're quite responsive when the characterization serves your narrative." "Your father," Graham said, his tone softening slightly. "The king. He tried to see you when he was traveling. Reports say you declined." "Our relationship is complicated." "Every father-son relationship is complicated, but most sons make time when fathers want to see them, especially fathers who are 77. Dame Judi spoke quietly. "I worked with your grandmother for years. Various events. She had such grace. Such commitment to family despite everything. I wonder what she'd make of all this. Harry's jaw tightened visibly. I'd prefer not to speculate about my grandmother's opinions. It's not speculation, dear. It's observation. She valued family above almost everything. The current situation would have pained her deeply. You didn't know her privately. I knew her publicly for 40 years. Sometimes public behavior reveals more than private ever could. She stayed. She endured. She never stopped trying. Dame Judy paused. That's a choice, Harry. Staying is a choice. Graham turned slightly. Idris, you and Harry go back a bit. The wedding. You DJ'd the reception. Idris nodded slowly, clearly not wanting to be drawn in. I did. It was a beautiful night. You two seemed close then. Lots of photos, lots of laughs. What happened? A long pause. Idris looked at Harry, then at Graham. People change. Situations change. That's diplomatic. Harry's being diplomatic. Everyone's very diplomatic. But something happened. You were friends. Now you're sitting 3 feet apart like strangers. Harry interjected sharply. My friendships are private. You published a book about private conversations with your family. The privacy boundary seems flexible. Idris spoke carefully. I'll just say, the Harry I knew at the wedding was different. Lighter. Happier. More present. What I've observed since... He stopped himself. What? Harry turned to face him. What have you observed? Mate, this isn't the place. No, say it. You've observed what? Idris met his eyes. Someone who's lost inside something. I don't know what. But the guy I first played music for, who was dancing and laughing and grateful, I don't see him anymore. And that makes me sad. The studio had gone completely silent. The audience was frozen. Graham let the moment breathe. The foundation work, Graham finally said. Archwell, what's the accomplishment you're most proud of? Harry seemed grateful for the topic change. We're building meaningful partnerships across multiple sectors. Partnerships toward what outcome? Systemic change in areas we care about. Which areas? What's changed systematically? I've genuinely tried to understand what Archwell produces. Impact isn't always measurable. Dame Judy spoke again, her voice carrying decades of theatrical precision. Impact that cannot be measured is indistinguishable from impact that doesn't exist. Every charity I've supported can point to specific outcomes. Schools built, scholarships funded, people helped by name. What are yours? Our approach is different. Different isn't inherently better. Sometimes different is just evasive. Harry's face had gone red. I'm being lectured about charity work by someone who's done it for 60 years? Yes, you are. Dame Judy's voice was gentle but immovable. Age has its privileges. One of them is recognizing deflection when I see it. The Netflix project, Graham continued. The docuseries, the downgraded deals, the lifestyle show that wasn't renewed. How do you respond to people who say you're struggling to find your footing in the entertainment industry? We're being selective about partnerships. Selective. That's one word for it. Another word might be declining. When deals shrink rather than grow, that's usually not selection. It's market correction. Idris spoke quietly. I've been in this industry for 30 years. Success requires showing up, doing the work, earning your place over and over. There are no shortcuts, even for people who start with massive platforms. Harry turned to him. Are you suggesting I haven't worked? I'm suggesting that platform isn't the same as craft. Visibility isn't the same as value. The industry figured that out eventually with everyone. It figures that out with you too. I've created... What have you created? Not events you've attended, not causes you've endorsed. What have you built from nothing? The question hung in the air. Your children, Graham said. Archie and Lilibet, they've met their grandfather how many times? They know their grandfather loves them. But how many times have they met him, actually been in the same room? Our schedules are complex. Schedules. Right. What about their cousins? George, Charlotte, Louis? Are they building relationships? Silence. Dame Judy shook her head slowly. Children need family. Extended family. The complicated relationships that teach them how to navigate difficult people. Protecting children from difficulty doesn't prepare them. It isolates them. You don't understand our situation. I understand choices. You've chosen distance. You've chosen California. You've chosen to raise your children away from their heritage, their extended family, their history. Those are choices, not circumstances. We were driven out. Were you? Or did you leave and then construct a narrative of being driven? I've known people who were genuinely exiled. They don't sign Netflix deals on the way out. Harry stood up abruptly. I can't do this. Graham remained calm. Can't do what? Have a conversation with two people who've known your family and your industry for decades? People who are offering perspective rather than attack? This is attack. Idris spoke quietly. This is honesty, Harry. Maybe the first you've heard in a while. The people around you now, do they tell you hard truths? Or do they tell you what you want to hear? You don't know anything about the people around me. I know they change constantly. I know that turnover is legendary. I know that people who tell comfortable lies stay, and people who tell uncomfortable truths leave. That's a pattern. That's a warning sign. Dame Judy added gently, the quality of counsel determines the quality of decisions. If you're surrounded by agreement, you're surrounded by mirrors. Mirrors only show you what you want to see. Harry grabbed his jacket. I've heard enough. Graham stood too, but slowly. You're leaving a conversation with Dame Judi Dench and Idris Elba, two people who've achieved everything through actual work, because they offered honest observations? They've offered judgment. They've offered perspective. Judgment would be dismissing you. They're trying to reach you. That's different. Idris stood as well. Harry, mate, I'm not trying to hurt you. I played at your wedding because I believed in what you and Megan were building. What I've watched since breaks my heart. Not because I'm angry, because I remember who you were. I'm the same person. You're not, and that's okay. People change, but the direction matters. When I met you, you were moving towards something. Now you seem to be running from everything. That's not the same person. That's not growth. Dame Judy spoke last, her voice carrying the weight of decades. I've met your grandmother, your father. I've watched your family serve. Imperfectly, sometimes painfully, but consistently. Service means staying when staying is hard. What you've done is leave when leaving was easy, and call it courage. It wasn't. It was escape. Harry left. The studio door closed behind him. The sofa fell silent. Graham sat back down slowly. Well, that just happened. Dame Judy adjusted her sleeve with theatrical calm. I fear I was too harsh. You were honest. There's a difference. Idris shook his head. I didn't want it to go that way. I really didn't. None of us did. Graham turned to face the camera. I want to address what just occurred, because it'll be discussed quite extensively. He leaned forward. Prince Harry came on this program and encountered two people who knew him, or knew his family, and had perspectives based on actual experience. Dame Judy has worked with royalty for decades. Idris played at his wedding. These aren't strangers being cruel. These are people who cared enough to say difficult things. Here's what I observed, Graham continued. Every question about family, about work, about accountability, Harry deflected. When Dame Judy asked about measurable impact, he couldn't provide any. When Idris asked what he built, silence. When either of them offered genuine perspective from genuine experience, he called it attack. Dame Judy nodded slowly. There's something quite tragic about it. He surrounded himself with people who won't challenge him, and when challenge arrives, he can't tolerate it. Idris agreed. The guy who danced at his wedding, that guy could take a joke, could laugh at himself, could be present. Whatever happened since then, it removed those abilities. And that's a loss. For him, for everyone. Graham straightened his jacket. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll continue with two guests who can actually finish an interview. Dame Judy, Idris, thank you for your honesty. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. He raised his glass. Britain, we'll be right back. The footage aired that night. BBC made no edits. The clips that spread captured the red sofa confrontation. Staying is a choice. Dame Judi Dench. The Harry I knew at the wedding was different, lighter, happier. What I've observed since? Someone who's lost inside something. Idris Elba. Impact that cannot be measured is indistinguishable from impact that doesn't exist. Dame Judi Dench. Platform isn't the same as craft. Visibility isn't the same as value. Idris Elba. You've signed Netflix deals and called it exile. That wasn't courage, it was escape. Dame Judi Dench. Harry's team released a statement calling the appearance a coordinated ambush involving former acquaintances and industry figures with their own agendas. Graham addressed it on the following week's show. Coordinated? Dame Judi Dench is 89 years old. The only thing she coordinates is her afternoon tea. Idris Elba tried repeatedly to offer gentle perspective. The ambush Harry experienced was simply people who remember who he used to be, comparing it to who he's become. That's not coordination, that's observation. Idris posted a brief statement. I wish him well. I genuinely do. But wishing someone well doesn't mean pretending not to see what's happening. Friends tell truth. I tried. Dame Judy said nothing publicly, but sources close to her mentioned she'd said privately, I've played queens. I've known queens. Whatever he's become, it isn't royal. It's just sad. For Graham Norton, the encounter became another chapter in a legendary career, proof that even the most welcoming format couldn't accommodate someone unwilling to participate. For Prince Harry, it was devastating in a way no American interview had been. This wasn't hostile journalism. This was Idris Elba, who'd played music at his wedding, saying he didn't recognize him anymore. This was Dame Judi Dench, who'd known his grandmother, saying his departure wasn't courage, but escape. But for the millions who watched, something else emerged. The contrast between the other guests, Dame Judy with 6 decades of perspective, Idris with genuine history and friendship, and Harry's defensive departure told its own story. 2 people who cared had offered truth. Harry had walked away from it. Dame Judy had asked about impact. Harry had offered nothing. Idris had asked what he built. Harry had provided silence. And in that silence, in that empty space where achievement should have been, everything anyone needed to know about the gap between platform and substance became clear. Some people welcome honesty from people who know them. Others can't survive it. Harry chose escape. Again. His wedding DJ said he didn't recognize him. A national treasure said he chose escape, not courage. And then he proved them both right by walking out. What does that tell you? If you want more content that doesn't accept performance over truth, subscribe. This is where the real conversations happen. Drop a like. It makes more difference than you know. More honesty, more perspective, more of what real friends actually say. Stay with us.